It is time for you to stop the publish and pray approach to promoting your show. Today, we're giving you a bunch of different ways to promote every episode you put out right here, right now. It's On Air Brands.
You are now tuned in to the On Air Brands podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the On Air Brand Show. I am Todd Giannattasio along with my co-host Amber Fuhriman. Hey, Amber, what is going on?
What's up? I had to adjust my audio. You were only coming in my left ear, and I was like, "This is not going to work for me." Like you don't realize how much like stereo sound is important until you're like, "Why can I only hear out of my left ear?"
I'm actually normally I have, on the shows I have actual headphones on, but throughout the day I'm wearing AirPods. And once people start getting back to the house, like if my wife is home and my kids are home, I just have one AirPod in. So I'm listening to, I listen to podcasts in just my right ear and my left ear is open in case, people start calling out for daddy's help or something like that.
I think that the moment you have a child, you learn to multitask on a level that us childless people cannot even begin to understand, because that sounds like my brain would go crazy. Like I'm the type of person that if I try to have like music on and then somebody's talking to me and I have some other sound anywhere,
God forbid you got to chew gum at the same time.
Process, right? Yeah. So, but now I can hear you, both ears. You're even. You're not just on one side of my head.
You're not going to be tipping over halfway through the episode here.
I do have a German Shepherd. I'm so excited. I ordered this shirt and it has words that are vertical. Mm-hmm. And so you have to turn your head to look at them. And it says, "Hey, you tilt your head the same way my shepherd does."
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's
it's
funny.
Great.
That's like the tire protector thing on Jeeps. That's like if you can read this, flip the Jeep back upside down.
Yep, exactly. So anyways, I was going to tell you, I feel a little personally attacked that you're telling me that publishing and praying doesn't work.
You have a pretty good cadence though for your show. I have, so on our list today, when a problem that a lot of people have is they just put the episode out and they're not promoting it anywhere. So on our list today, I have 8 social media post frameworks that anybody can use for their shows that they're putting out. So when you put out an episode, you can just make a social media post following each one of these. So you'll have 8 easy things. You don't have to come up with ideas for what are you going to write about the show. Very easy to fill in frameworks. And you have, you have 3 that go out for every episode, which is really good. That's better than most people.
Yeah, I'm learning that when I feel like I'm failing at life, that like I just need to realize that my standards are sometimes a little bit higher than I expect, right? So as far as publishing though, I think what's really cool is there's so much you can do outside of social media. And I feel like that's where I'm failing the most is like we publish on social media, which is great. And then what do you do next? So anyways,
that can be our follow-up. That can be our follow-up to this episode is what to do beyond social media. But for today, we're going to hit social media just to give people the checklist, make it easy so that your episodes don't go onto Apple, Android, YouTube, wherever, and sit there unwatched. Like, let's get them out. You should be building your audience on social media. You have people paying attention there. And this same stuff also goes for email. You can use these frameworks for your emails to send out to your subscribers. You're not going to send 8 emails in 1 week to your subscribers, all about one single episode, I hope. But you can use any of these frameworks or space them out. So a couple of the things, and, I would invite everybody to go follow Amber on Instagram, which is at Amber Fuhriman. I almost said at amberfuhriman.com, just at Amber Fuhriman on Instagram, to check out this stuff that she has been posting, for as far as you could scroll back without getting too bored, but not bored with your content, but scrolling through the grid and seeing how far back. Yeah. But as far as I know, since I've known you, you've been doing this. So you're very consistent. It's awesome. And you do have your episode comes out. So like, let's promote and tell everybody, right? Like that's a good step number 1 that a lot of people don't do all the time, right? So like when your episode comes out, post an announcement that says, hey, new episode is live, right? And that's actually not on my list of 8 things. So now we have 9, right? An ever-growing list to make it easier for you guys to promote your content. So an announcement that there's a new episode. And typically you really only get that once. That's like a novelty, timely thing, quote unquote, new episode out. Here's what we're talking about. Here's the guest. Click here to check it out. That's kind of something that you only post one time. You can't put that into your evergreen content and in 2 months have something that says, hey, new episode's out, go check it, right? So that would be the first post for everybody. When you have your episode published, share that it's published.
Yeah. And if you're sitting there going, I don't do that, I used to be you a long time ago. And so I would love for you to actually comment on this video because I want to hear your answer and let us know why you're not doing that. What is that mental block between when you record this fabulous episode that is valuable enough for you to spend your time recording it, and then that disconnect between actually making that post? So if you're not announcing your episodes on social media, I would love to know why, because I know there's a variety of answers. So comment on this video and let us know.
Yeah, that's great. That's another good follow-up episode I'm writing down here. Mental blocks for podcasters and how to get over them. Because that's really your specialty there in that mindset stuff. And I'd love to at least get a list, because it all starts with self-awareness. So when we're able to recognize those blocks, that would be great. And overcoming that is, again, whatever reasons are holding you up from promoting your show. If you don't get over those mental blocks first, it doesn't matter how many frameworks we give you or how easy we make it for you to promote it. If you have mental barriers around wanting to promote it, you're going to find any excuse in the world not to put something out.
It's true.
So number one that you want to do is when your show goes live, share an announcement post, right? Hey, new episode's up. Here's the topic. Here's the headline. Here's the guest. This is what we're talking about. Click here to go check it out. The next thing, which is number one on my list that I had planned here, which is actually, I'm pulling these out of a much bigger guide that I put together. It was specifically for promoting videos, but same thing goes for your shows. So you guys can definitely go sign up and grab this at onairbrands.com/show and scroll down to the bottom and you'll see the sign up form to get this free guide on growing your show. So number one on this list here is creating a message that is towards pleasure, right? So bringing people to the benefit or outcome that they're going to get when they listen to your episode, right? So the example here, and I base this all around, if you're familiar with I think I went to YouTube and the most recent or suggested video there was something from Sunny Lenarduzzi, who is a great resource herself around YouTube marketing. But so I use that as the example here. So if you are publishing content, you talk about what's the pleasure that they're going to get out of this. So you can say, hey, do you want to get more views on your YouTube videos? Click here to check out this week's episode where we talk about that, right? So we're talking about towards pleasure. Getting more views is the outcome. It's the benefit. It's the pleasure that our audience is looking to get for themselves, right? So when you have a new episode, think about what is that we can talk about for the audience. Super quick and easy to put that stuff out. Number two is the opposite. It's getting away from pain, right? So people do things for one of two reasons: to move towards pleasure or away from pain. And actually, as humans, our natural psychology is to move away from pain more than it is to move towards pleasure, which is unfortunate for marketers, because then you're kind of forced due to human psychology, we're forced to talk about pain and make people uncomfortable, but that's just the way to get people to make changes and transform their lives. So then it's the same type of thing where instead of it saying, do you want to get more viewers on your YouTube videos? Let's make the same the opposite framework, going away from pain. So are you tired of working so hard to make great videos, but no one is watching them? Click here to check out this week's episode on how to get people to watch the videos, right? So we're going from, away from the pain in that one. And, I'm sure that a lot of this is also familiar from your neuro-linguistic programming training and all that stuff that you're a master in, right? Because this is not just how to promote episodes. This is actually how you can self-coach yourself to change your life.
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, I think you can only self-coach yourself so far.
True,
and yet you can do that. What I was going to add was that yes, we move away from pain and we move toward pleasure, but as far as the pain is concerned, not only do we move away from pain, but we want to know that the person that we're moving away from pain with understands our pain. And so it's so important that when you do these posts and when you announce these, you don't only acknowledge their problem, you acknowledge that you understand it. And how vulnerable you decide to get with that is going to depend on the platform and the purpose of the post and so many things that are beyond what we're talking about today. Just know that you could have the best intentions. If you're not able to relay that in the post in a way that makes somebody believe that you understand their problem and that you can take them away from that pain, then it's not going to be effective.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you go through any kind of sales training, the first thing, one of the first things you learn is that you need to be able to understand and articulate the problems better than the person themselves. And, oddly enough, you actually don't even know how to solve their problem most of the time. If you can just articulate their problem to them in a way that they're like, wow, this person understands my problem, they must know how to solve it. It's the natural conclusion that a person comes to when they know that you understand what the problem is, even though
Absolutely.
it's really not that logical, because just because you have a problem doesn't mean you know how to solve it. But that's, again, the tricks of our human brains, is, getting into that, just being able to clearly articulate and describe problems that our audience is having. It shows our competence and authority in that space. And it really builds that the credibility with the people who are paying attention to you.
Yeah. And what's really cool is that you don't have to do it in a post, because you
Right.
have this whole platform of a podcast. So you get to go really deep into that in your content. And so this is where, we get this 25 to 30 minutes a week to talk to you guys about ways to promote your episode and branding and all of this marketing and amazing stuff. And really it all goes hand in hand to create this big plan.
Yeah, totally. And it's the hub and spoke model of having your show as the hub and your social posts are the spokes, right? Like building your audience on social so you can send them and spend more time. And again, like you mentioned before, understanding the context of the different platforms that you're posting on, and how long it's going to be and what type of content style it's going to be there. But again, like the social stuff is going to be much more micro than a 20 to 30, or, some people have 3-hour podcast episodes, right? So it's what I look at as like the breadcrumb strategy, right? Like, how do we put the breadcrumbs down on social so that we lead them into the longer form content, and that longer form content really deepens the relationship with the listener or the viewer. And like you said, like you can go deeper in the topic. So you don't have to, overkill it on social. It's like just one step at a time, one breadcrumb at a time to lead people into the content and deepen the relationship.
Absolutely.
Next up, I have statistics. So this won't always apply to everything that you do. But when you do have numbers or data mentioned in your episodes, or if you're pre-planning your episodes and you do research and pull up data for it, that's another easy social post to promote an episode. And so it's like, 65% of people use YouTube to help them solve a problem. So if you're putting out videos on YouTube, make sure that you are focused on problem solving. Click here to learn how to do that in your episodes, right? Like, so using data and statistics. And again, that goes to, those first couple things are like our emotional, the emotional brain, but now we're getting into data and logic. So it's just touching on all these different angles of, the human psychology to get people interested, because some days they may be interested in one thing, in one of those styles versus another, or some of your audience is going to be at different parts of their customer journey, and you're going to need to be able to communicate the same deep content of your episode in all these multiple different ways on the social spokes to get people in and listen to the full episodes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you put the emotional side first, because so many people think that they need to relate to clients on this logical side, which is important. And yet every single decision we make is emotionally based. We just justify it with logic later.
Exactly.
So those statistics are used to really nail in the fact that you're the right person based upon the information that you have after that emotional connection's been made.
Yep. And that same type of thing, the logical, the practical stuff. Next up is a practical tip from your episode, right? So if you're talking for 20 or 30 minutes, hopefully you have a nice 30 to 60 second snippet, at least one of them in there that does give practical insights on the topic. and you can pull that tip out and put that into a social post, right? So an example here from what we were talking about in our demo is, embed your YouTube video on your blog so that you can control the context and present a relevant call to action that will increase your conversions. If you want more tips like this on getting more out of your videos, listen to the full episode here, right? So it's pulling out one of those tips, and then again, it's just another breadcrumb to bring people into the full episode. Next up, we have problem as well as solution. That's number 5 and 6. And so we talked about going towards pleasure and away from pain and describing the problems there. But when we're putting those posts out, we're like specifically going towards pleasure or away from pain. In a problem focused post, it's just another part of the checklist here where let's specifically just highlight the problem that they're having. So are your videos not getting any views? Listen to this week's episode, right? Like we're just straight up the problem. That's it, making it simple. And same thing with solution, where learn how to increase your video views with a few simple tips. Click here to check out this week's episode. All right. So
yeah. What number are we on? Because I want to make a point.
That's
7?
5 and 6.
Five
So
and
we're
6.
going into 7. Yeah.
So we're going into number 7 of the things that you can do to promote your episode. And I want you guys to pay attention to how many times Todd has said, here's the place to buy my product or service. It hasn't existed, right? Like nobody cares at this point.
That's right.
All of this is creating that relationship, showing that you understand the problem, that you have a solution or a solution. You haven't inserted yourself as the solution yet because they don't care about you yet.
That's right. Yeah. It's all the breadcrumbs, right? The stepping stones. We're bringing someone through their journey, and we just want to help them to resonate with us, understand that we understand their problems, demonstrate our expertise, deepen the relationship. And then, throughout that customer journey, you can, implement places where, there's a chance for people to work with you, book a call with you, do those kind of things. But yeah, when we're talking about like, let's just connect with people and give, one of my modern marketing principles is value first, right? So, giving value first, and it builds a relationship. It puts the equity in the relationship bank. It helps you have more educated clients so that the people you start working with are going to be better for you, and it's going to turn into a better result for them because your expectations will be much more aligned and understood. They'll be better prepared on and know what they need to do on their end because they're so familiar. And plus, I always say your vibe attracts your tribe. So when you're building an audience through social and people listening to your show, like they're not going to be listening to your show and then booking a call with you or buying your products if they don't really jive with your personality type, right? So you're going to attract better client relationships, right? It's just not everybody's a fit for everyone. That's why there's, a million different coaches, a million different, everything, there's never too many of problem solvers in the world.
It's true. It's true. And I feel like it took me forever to get over the fact that not everybody was going to like me. So I still cringe a little bit when you say that, but it's true.
Yeah. It's, but that's how you make deeper relationships with the people that are good fits, as opposed to trying to make a surface level relationship with a million people, right? Like that's what it's all about.
I remember somebody telling me once, if nobody's upset with you, you're not talking about anything important. And I was like, okay, fine. All right, then.
Yeah. Or just not in a way that's resonating with people, right? Like, so you got to put it out. And so, right on time here, number 7 here is an audience call out. And so, our brains are wired to scan for things that are familiar to us or potential resources or threats. And one of those are your name, right? Like when you're in a crowded room, or you're at a party and there's dozens of people around, and someone, you're not hearing every word of every conversation in the room at the time, but if someone says your name from across the room, your brain triggers and says, hey, that's something to pay attention to, and it gets through your filter, right? So that's what the importance of having audience call outs in some of your content that you're putting out is. It will cut through the noise because it will resonate. And that goes back to being more narrow with who you're trying to attract, right? So in this example, just starting off, are you a YouTuber? Are you a podcaster? Are you a podcaster who wants to get more listeners for your show? This week's episode gives you practical tips on how to promote on social media and get more people listening. But just because we started off by calling them out, it filters through the noise and they're going to pay attention to it. And then they're also similar to understanding the problem. It's like, ooh, this is for podcasters, they understand the problem because they're talking to podcasters, right? It's like the same thing when you're, selling something to accountants versus doctors versus lawyers. Like if you go into a law firm and say, hey, we're going to help you guys get more patients next month. They're going to say, what? We don't need we don't need patients next month. We need clients. And vice versa. If you tell a doctor you're going to get them more clients, they're going to say, we need more patients. We don't have clients. And so just understanding your audience so you can sculpt the language around it to resonate more is going to make a better connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to follow up on that aspect as well, because the point of these posts isn't necessarily to get the post out. It's to be able to start a conversation and start to build a relationship and start to find that in-depth audience that's going to be really engaged in what you're doing. And I read a book called You're Invited. I think John Levy wrote it. And he talked about, the human relationship and the human connection and how we crave helping other people. So when you do that audience call out, another thing that you can do in addition to that is ask them for a favor. He said in this book, and I cringed. He's like, if you want people to connect with you, you need to ask for more favors. And we think, I don't want to ask anybody to do anything. And so when I say ask for a favor, I'm not talking about buy my stuff. I'm not even talking about go to my page and like, or anything to that effect. I'm talking comment on this post and tell me what your biggest struggle in this relationship is. Or we're talking about getting views. Comment on this post and tell me or I need a favor. Can you please tell me what your biggest struggle is in getting views on your YouTube channel? But asking them to get engaged and letting them know that you need their help, because the reality is without their problems, you don't have a solution.
Yeah. And I think that's also important to articulate too, because that you're there to help solve their problems, because I think if you all of this is around language and semantics, right? Because if you're just asking for favors, you're drawing out of the equity of the relationship, right? And so if you do that, they're going to say, okay, I'm doing this for you. I'm commenting for you. But if you were to talk about it in a way that was much more for their self-interest, it's the same thing where you're trying to drive engagement or get content, to help solve their problems, where if you said, hey guys, I need a favor, comment below with your problems that you're having getting people listening to your show. Or if you said, do you need some free help on getting more people to listen to your show, comment below with what your question is and we'll answer it on a future episode. Well, the first way, when you say I need a favor, you're drawing out of the equity of the relationship. But the second way, you're actually putting equity into the relationship because you're looking to provide them value. So I think both of those work in different instances. I lean towards putting equity into the relationship more. But at the same time, I do know that from, I don't remember if it was Chris Voss about like negotiations and things or something, or someone similar to that, talking about when you ask someone for feedback versus asking them for advice, like there's a huge difference. And I think if you were to ask for their advice, they feel much more part of the collaborative, as opposed to asking for feedback or something like that. I forget the details, so don't quote me. We're not putting that quote in the show promo for this episode. But
I'm glad that you brought up never split the difference too, though, because that's more in a negotiation situation, and yet it applies so much here because it talks about the fact that when you have a negotiation, you don't have you on one side and somebody on the other. You want to phrase it as if it's this single problem that you guys are all solving together. So your content is this single thing that you guys are trying to overcome together. If it's not valuable to your audience, you don't have a show. And if your audience isn't engaged, you don't have a show. Like, we need engaged audiences to be able to make this work. So the free guide is a great way to do it. Hey, I'm putting together a free guide for podcasters on how to ABC. I want to make sure that I get all of your concerns in there. So I'd love if you could comment and let me know what your problem is in this field. And then there's content for you.
Yep.
Just deliver on it. Don't take all of that and then be like, no free guide for you, no soup for you, right? You have to follow up with what you offer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Or thanks for tips on that. Now do you want to buy that? Do you want to buy it for $99?
Oh, 99's cheap. I was thinking $9.97,
oh,
right?
Man. Yeah.
No, if
inflation,
I hear that, right? It goes up.
All right. So the last one that I have on my list is tagging quotes from your episodes. So obviously, if you have a guest, this is super easy to do. Amber, you do a great job of this on your socials. But it's pulling out quotes. And if you don't have guests, you could just, have your social post pull quotes from the episode anyway. But, having a quote from the episode in a graphic or in the content, and then making sure you tag your guest. And, everybody can go check out last week's episode where Amber really broke down how to get guests to promote your podcast. That was episode 34 last week. And that's kind of goes in here. When you're putting out social, if you have a guest, make sure that you are posting and tagging them so that it makes it easy for them to just hit the reshare buttons and all that kind of stuff, and giving them assets to get them to help promote your show as well. But make sure you go to last week's episode number 34, which we got a lot of great feedback from our audience. So that was great to hear. Always feels good. Shout out to Bailey for the text message on that. But it was a great episode that you broke down last week, Amber. So, this was unintentional, but last week's and this week's do kind of go hand in hand from, promoting your episodes. Last week's was how do you get your guests to do it? And today's all the social posts that you should be creating for your show. We can get into maybe another episode in the future too, around like, okay, what's the timing for this on the channels? Like, what's the actual social media strategy around promoting a show? Because there's, a lot of different ways. Like, we don't want to just have one and done. Like I said, if you just have an episode come out every Monday and you post on Monday, hey, new episode's out, click here, and then you never promote it again. But that episode is like, has a lot of evergreen content that's good forever. Not necessarily, if you're not putting out a news show, then you should be consistently promoting all the episodes that have valuable content. And so, we can even talk through in a future episode here. If people are interested, let us know the strategy around like the promotion of your new episodes and how to create an evergreen promotional calendar for your existing stuff and how to rotate all that stuff in. And I'm happy to dive into that for our people too.
And one of the unintended consequences of all of this, or I should say intended, unintended, I don't know. One of the byproducts of this is if you are somebody who's reaching out and trying to get guests on your podcast and you have this Dream 100 list, which you should if you are trying to get guests, and you want to know how to connect with people that seemingly would be out of your reach otherwise, this is the way to do it. Because people who are coming on podcasts as guests are doing it because they want the exposure. So if you can show them that you take your show seriously, that you create content, that you do social media posts, that you promote the episodes afterwards, you give them tangible assets that they can then, or tangible results that they can then use to share and give them more benefit to come on your show. Even if your audience may be small, it still gives you that credibility with them because they know that you're taking your podcast seriously and they're going to get a return on their investment from the social media world.
Yeah. And speaking of the Dream 100, and this is another episode that I put down on the list that we can do, because this is a strategy we're launching for some clients in 2022, is it's business development through a podcast. And it's taking your Dream 100 list and laying out an entire, depending on the business, it might be 30 days, 90 days, 180 days, it might even be 12 months, but how to create the relationships with your Dream 100 through having a podcast, and how do you follow up with that relationship in the proper cadence and timing and sequence, so that you're not just, hey, thanks for being on the show, let me sell you something, but how do you develop and nurture that relationship? So that's something we're launching for our clients next year. And I'm happy to walk through that in a future episode for our listeners as well, because I think that is definitely one of the best and most efficient ways to do business development in today's world, for sure. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the show at onairbrands.com/show. Scroll down to the bottom there. You can get the free guide that goes into much more depth than just those 8 or 9 things we ran through today, but it's got actually 7 full sections. That was just one section of the guide. So download that at onairbrands.com/show. Make sure you're subscribed for all those future episodes we just rattled off. Go check out Amber on Instagram. You can get there if you go to morethancorporate.com. That's the easier way to type in and find her.
Yeah,
and
don't try to spell my name.
Yeah. Same as for me. You know, thegrowthsuite.com is how you get in touch with Todd Giannattasio. It's like, and if you don't have your show yet, make sure you guys go to onairbrands.com and hit up Eric and the team there so that you can get your show launched and you can start doing all this awesome stuff that we've been talking about. And until then, we will catch you guys on the next episode.
You're now tuned in to the On Air Brands